Hello and welcome to Qlik Fix. This video will explain how to set up Qlik NPrinting for use with SAML, or Security Assertion Markup Language, which is a type of single sign-on authentication. There are currently 3 limitations when using SAML authentication with Qlik NPrinting. First, Qlik NPrinting does not sign the SAML authentication request. Second, SAML response encryption is not supported. And third, SAML single logout is not supported. In this demo, we will be using Qlik NPrinting with the identity provider Okta, but it will work similarly with any identity provider you like, such as Azure, ADFS, OneLogin, Ping Federate. Just remember, you need to have an admin account in both NPrinting and your identity provider. You must be using Qlik NPrinting version April 2019 or later, as they're the only versions that have the SAML capability built in. The first thing we're going to do is log in to the Qlik NPrinting console, and then select the Admin drop-down menu, and select Settings, then click on the SAML button. Then click on the Add Configuration button. Give the SAML configuration setting a name, whatever you would like. I'll call this one Okta Web Console. For the portal, this can be set for Web Console or Newsstand. You can even set up both, but you need separate buttons for each as they use different port numbers. The service provider URL is the first part of the NPrinting console URL. Just copy and paste this portion here. Do remember that the default NPrinting icon to open the web console only uses the server name. This field requires the fully qualified domain name. So I'll add that, and then proceed to Entity ID. I'm just going to use the name to make things easier. You can see that the Login button preview does take whatever you've written in the name field. So just make it something easy for the end users. We will upload the metadata file later, so I'll skip that section for now. Okta does authenticate the user by email, so I'm entering the attributes for email here. Typically, ADFS will authenticate the user by domain and username, but for Okta we'll be using email. You can then save this configuration and download the service provider metadata. Our next step is to log in to Okta, the service provider. Once you're there, you can click on the Add Application shortcut and do Create New App. Make sure you're using WebSAML 2.0 and Create. For name, we'll just put in a name that's easy to remember. For app visibility, if you're doing this in production, you may want to select these boxes so the user does not see the app while it's being built. But just remember to return to this setting and uncheck those boxes once everything is complete. But this is a dev environment, so we'll leave those unchecked. Okay, so now these are the settings for configuring your button. Here is where the metadata comes in handy. We'll use it as a cheat sheet. The first bit of information we'll need is the assertion consumer service URL, which is right here. Just copy that without the quotes. That will be the single sign-on URL. Next is the entity ID, which in this case is the Okta Web Console. The default relay state can be blank. The name ID format is always going to be transient. You can double check what the format should be by looking in the metadata here. We'll leave everything else. For the attribute statements, we'll enter the Okta email, leave this as unspecified, and the value as user.email. Then click Next. When it asks if you're a customer or a partner, select Customer and Internal App, and click on Finish. And here you can download the identity provider metadata. Just make sure you save it with a .xml extension. I put that on the desktop. It's also good to make sure you assign yourself. If you don't, you won't have access. So assign myself to this app. So now if we go back to NPrinting and click on the Okta Web Console, we should be able to browse for that identity provider metadata file from Okta and save. Now we'll log out, and we'll see the single sign-on button that's being used with SAML. Clicking on that should redirect the user to Okta, and proceeding will take us to NPrinting. So this was successfully set up. What you can also do is access it from Okta. In Okta, click on My Applications. You've been assigned a new button. Clicking on that button will take you directly to NPrinting. I hope this helped.
Nailed it.